I've also embarrassed myself in a pre-war Bentley trying to shift gears, and if you don't get it right, it tells you, and it tells everybody around you as well.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene. Since 1990, your source for information, trivia, and a little bit of humor thrown in. Co-hosting with me tonight, as usual, is Rapid Randy Kerdoon from Talking About Cars. And as you know, we are Two Tired Guys Productions. With us, Tim Mcgrane. How are you doing today? Because you've got some exciting information to give us about what's going on. You're back in the Detroit area now, and there's a lot going on there. You are creating something that, God, I wish we had here in Southern California.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for having me. Yes, we've got exciting times here. So we're actually located in Pontiac, Michigan at the M1 Concourse, which is a 87-acre automotive facility that comprises of about 250 private garage condos, a high-performance driving track that's about 1.5 mile in length with 11 turns. And we've got 4 feature events lined up this year, which, given that the entire world didn't do anything last year, I think we're excited about, and hopefully the automotive world, both in the state of Michigan and anywhere else around. So look forward to the opportunity of sharing information about the events with you.
What a clever coincidence, Bob, because I just happen to have a Pontiac in my garage, and Tim is in Pontiac, Michigan, number one. Number two, I just want to double check, because when you say automotive condos, is this kind of like a place where you can put your cars, have your little area for a man cave, and also, or do people literally move in and share space with cars?
No, it's the first part. It's where collectors can store their cars, park their cars. Some of them have been convert. Some of them are sort of workshops, in the sense that the guy's got a lift, couple of lifts, and he's working on his cars and enjoying it. And then the other extreme is some people have built out mezzanine levels and sort of turned them into sort of that car person's Taj Mahal. They're not designated for residential, so you can't live there. But there's certainly some I've seen that have the ability that if you were there late night and you were drinking with friends, you could certainly spend the night in comfort.
What's the craziest one you've seen so far? The craziest as far as just
For examples, there's one that there's probably an ultimate sort of speakeasy type theme. When you walk inside, you have to go back outside to make sure you didn't go through a sort of a time warp. There's one that is completely decked out with white marble, chrome stairs, glass. Looks like it should be something in Architectural Digest.
Now, could someone like you and I, or Randy and I, purchase one of these condos?
Absolutely. We're just finishing up our last phase, which is phase 4. So there's 80 units that are there, and they vary in size. On the smaller size, they're about sort of 600 square feet. And on the larger size, depending upon, if a person bought them when they were being built, we've got one that qualifies as a sort of double wide, double deep, double tall thing. So he's got track facing view. He can go in from both sides, and he's probably got about a 3,000 square foot facility, and with enough ceiling height to do two levels of mezzanine.
Wow.
And then some of them because the mezzanine level is higher, they've had these lifts built that where the car gets elevated, so it looks like it's sitting in the living section. So it's about 20 foot off the ground, but when they're on their mezzanine level, the car's, their Ferrari or whichever car it is sitting there as their centerpiece of their mezzanine. So pretty spectacular, very creative as well.
Why would something like this set someone back for the small size?
Whatever they can afford.
Oh, well, in that case, wait a minute here. What do you got here? Hold on.
$380 here.
Just taking my keys out. Wait a second. Okay.
Got any
we
copper?
had we actually have, if you're so inclined, we actually have 11 units remaining.
Oh, that's all.
And the price of the 600 unit garages, $195,000. We provide a finished shell with all utilities. And it's a real estate transaction. It is like buying a condo. You own the real estate that your garage sits on.
That's good. That's not bad considering.
And satellite TV, I would imagine, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, Bob,
we're there.
Take my money. Okay.
Yeah. We found out we've just fixed our problem, right?
I like that idea.
Nice extra garage space. All right.
Yeah.
Now you've got other things going on there too. It looks like there's a racetrack that surrounds this facility.
It's a track. It's not a racetrack. It wasn't. It was designed to be sort of a driving track. It could not, have competitive races on it. It's not wide enough. The safety features are there for driving at speed, but certainly not wheel-to-wheel racing. So again, it's 1.5 miles. It's got 11 turns. We have a unique feature here. It's designed that it can be run both clockwise and counterclockwise. So for those members that do track days on a regular basis, every so often, we don't surprise them. We tell them we're running counterclockwise, and they come out and they get a different experience. So it adds to their membership of the program.
That is amazing. Now you've got a number of events planned, and I saw some photographs. It looks like you had like a cruise day where everyone came in, parked, and you had a car show there.
We do. So there's plenty of them around the country. There's the obligatory, so the cars and coffee, so we do those during the summer months. Obviously, the climate out here means that you don't do anything during the winter months as you can do sort of in California. So as they do out in Malibu in the market out there, we can't do those in the winter months. So we were going to start in May. We canceled or we postponed our May one because we're still within the state mandated COVID requirements for limiting access. And there's such a pent up demand. We normally were getting 1,400 cars, and we just sensed from a social media following that we could have got at least 2,000 cars, and wow. Telling 1,000 people they can't come in probably was not going to be good. So we decided to cancel our May one. So we do that July, we miss August because of other events, and then September and October. And then we've got 4 other major events, 2 of them of which we're producing, and 2 of them we're a host venue for other events that are being produced. And certainly we'd like to go through those with you.
Please do.
Yeah, one of them I think isn't it the Woodward Cruise? What was that? There was a
Woodward Dream Show.
Woodward Dream Show, yeah, something along
that is actually. So I'm going to start the weekend before that. We host, and this will be the 4th year it's been held here. So the Motor Trend Group puts on what's called Roadkill Nights. It's a program they do with Dodge brand, and they actually got permission to close down part of legendary Woodward Avenue, and they'd actually do drag racing on Woodward Avenue. Mm-hmm. Which we're actually sit on. The name M1 Concourse comes from Woodward Avenue designation as Michigan Highway 1. Okay. So that particular event occupies quite a bit of the M1 Concourse facility. They use our arena and our track and a lot of our property. So that's our first event. That happens middle of August 13th through the 14th. And then that leads into, what is known as Woodward Dream Cruise Week here in Detroit. And we're doing a new event this year called Woodward Dream Show. So we're reaching out to owners of legendary muscle cars, hot rods, cars that probably created the legend that was Woodward Avenue. But because of their historical nature or their value, you probably won't see them on the road these days. But the owners still want to share them with car enthusiasts. So we'll have 2 days of events, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We've got a series of events here at M1 Concourse. And it's to complement the Dream Cruise. I mean, Dream Cruise, this will be the first time I'll actually experience with the Pebble Beach events in August in the Monterey Peninsula. But given the tens of thousands of cars that descend upon the Detroit area or from basically the city of Ferndale up to Pontiac and hundreds of thousands of spectators, we're looking at putting on sort of just an additional event that complements what's already going on with Dream Cruise. In fact, we had a sort of a press conference today, and 2 of the legendary cars. There's a GTX 67 GTX that's known as Silver Bullet, which reputedly was unbeatable on Woodward Avenue. So that was out here today, and that's going to be one of our feature cars. And there's also a 71 Challenger that was named Black Ghost. And that's actually one of the cars that's in the historic vehicle registry. So those are just a couple of the types of cars we're going to have on display as part of the show that we're doing. So it takes us through our Woodward Dream Show event.
Okay, so that's going to be coincided with the Dream Cruise. So if someone's there for the cruise, they can also go to your show
That
during
is
the same
correct.
period of
Yes.
time. 'Cause I used to love going to the Dream Cruise, and I missed it. So that's good. As a matter of fact, it's your facility is built in one of the locations I used to work.
Oh, okay.
It used to be our truck plant, the GM truck plant.
That's exactly it. This particular property, it's 87 acres. It's got some significant history. Obviously, for a majority of its life, it was the GMC facility. I think from what I understand, the first company here was the Rapid Motor Car Company that started building vehicles in 1902 on this property.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we used to hold, I worked for GM Medium Duty, and we used to hold training classes there, right there with the assembly line. So, yeah, I'm familiar with it. And I'd always schedule my visit there for training the same time as the Dream Cruise. Just happened to coincide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. So those are
Very
two
nice.
back-to-back events we have in August. And then moving into September, our next event, the event that we're doing, is our American Speed Festival event. And that starts September 30th and goes through October 3rd. We're creating a unique event. It's going to focus on cars that represent past, present, and future. But they're going to run on the track one at a time. There'll be timed runs, or for those cars that maybe historically, would do performance runs. We've got 6 classes of cars. We're also going to honor the great Jim Hall and the Chaparral cars that he created. He's actually coming out to the event to be recognized as our sort of legend of motorsport. So Can-Am are one of our feature classes, endurance cars, and Indy cars. Obviously, those are 3 disciplines that he was very successful in. We're going to have historic stock cars, sometimes referred to as NASCARs, but we're not supposed to use that name. Then we have a feature car class. And then because we're in the city of Pontiac, we've got to have a Pontiac class. So all the events that we do, we're going to have a class of Pontiac cars.
We got to drive your car back, Randy.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So it will be over 3.5 days, 2 days of track activity on the Friday and Saturday. And then on the Sunday, all the competition cars will be in as part of an invitational car show. And then we'll have 10 other classes. So we hope to have about 1,000 cars on display here. That's for that weekend. Leading into that week, in what we call American Speed Festival week, we've been very fortunate. We had a brand new event center that will open up in September. And the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America, which is now located at Daytona Speedway in Daytona, Florida, a number of years ago was actually originally here in Novi, Michigan. When they heard that we got a new event center opening up, and that we had this American Speed Festival event, they had been unable to do their 2020 Hall of Fame induction dinner, and also hadn't done their 2021 induction dinner. So they are actually going to do 2 dinners on a Monday evening and on a Wednesday evening here in our new event center. So we've got the privilege of having the great people from motorsports that they're honoring in their Hall of Fame. So that'll kick off our American Speed Week. But just before that, M1 facility is going to be the host of an event called Motorbella, which is put on by the Detroit Auto Dealers Association, who are the organization that normally put on the Detroit Auto Show. And as with most auto shows, they've been unable to, it didn't happen last year and wasn't going to happen this year. So Motorbella is a new concept they've come up. It's an outdoor event. It gives the opportunity for driving experiences. So we're excited about being the host opportunity for this new Motorbella event that's coming.
So you're kind of making your events similar to like an American Goodwood.
Goodwood is very much Goodwood. I've been extremely fortunate to attend both of the feature events, the Festival of Speed and Revival, many times over the years. And they are truly unique, probably because of where they're held. I think we're going to find our own identity. We can't call it a hill climb because we're running in a circle and we've only got a 30-foot elevation change. But I suppose if you're using some point of reference, you could certainly use that connection in a theme point of view.
Yes.
Those are larger events. I mean, and done, to exceeding quality. We're a small facility. I think we're going to put on sort of an intimate event and carve out our own identity. But certainly the ability for us to showcase cars that you wouldn't see on other tracks because they just won't be put in a situation where they're running in a historic race, again, because of either their historical rarity or the value of the cars. So being run one at a time. And that's why the chaparrals are being run. They're sending at least 2 of the chaparrals from the Midland, the museum in Midland, Texas. And it's going to be exciting to see those, perform on the track.
Tim, this is all about events, and this is kind of really a lot of what you've been doing over the years for the various places you've worked. The Barrett-Jacksons, when you were working there, I mean, that's a huge event. The various museums and companies that you've worked with is all about putting together one-of-a-kind, certainly events to catch everybody's eye. And this looks like it's going to be just another bunch of similar events. It sounds like fun.
Well, thank you. It is. It's going to be exciting. We've certainly got our work cut out for us. Obviously, we've got sort of a short lead time in actually being able to activate these. This facility is certainly unique. I mean, there are a number of private tracks around the country. Out on the West Coast, you've got Thermal down in the Palm Springs or Palm Desert area. Out in Arizona, there's Apex. And then over on this coast down in Florida, there's Concord Club. And up in New York, Monticello. All do it slightly differently. This is probably one of the more compact ones. And Bob, as you know, we're landlocked. I mean, we can't get any bigger. We've got roads that have been out there for 100 years on 3 sides and a railroad on another side. But the way it's being configured and the opportunity for us to put on a unique event at a level, an American Speed Festival event, we actually are going to focus it more as a lifestyle event with an automotive theme, as opposed to the Woodward Dream Show, which is truly going to be an automotive event.
Now, Randy alluded a little bit to your experience. Why don't you tell some of our viewers what you've been involved with?
So I was extremely, I actually had started, when I first came to the States, which was in the early 80s, I lived in Palm Springs for 10 years. In the early years, got involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and there was a group of us, so we were car fanatics, and we were trying to work out how to, what event can we put on that would help generate tourism? And being car people, we looked at each other and go, well, let's put on a vintage race on the streets. How difficult could it be? Those infamous last words.
Yeah.
But we pulled it off, more by luck than judgment, but we pulled it off. It was the mid-90s, and Phil Hill was driving a Grand Prix Talbot Lago, pre-war Grand Prix. Dan Gurney drove an Eagle. Sterling Moss came out. We were just really lucky. But we knew that we had something that needed somebody that knew that we're doing. So we got Chris Pook from Long Beach, and his operation came down and took the event. And that got me into sort of the motorsports world in California, but also introduced me to the classic car auction world. And I started working for a gentleman by the name of Rick Cole, who was based up in North Hollywood. And right. Rick did 6 to 8 auctions a year, sort of developed what became the sort of the sports and race car sort of category in that. He was the person that actually did the very first auction up in Monterey. So I ended up in the auction world, the classic car world. Rick and his company joined Don Williams up in the Black Hawk collection. So I spent 9 years up in Danville in the 90s, running the Black Hawk collection, putting the events that they did around the country and in a couple of cases in Europe. That then segued, I spent some time with Barrett-Jackson. Don Williams had actually had a long relationship with both Tom Barrett and Russ Jackson. So even before I worked at Barrett-Jackson, I'd had a long relationship with him. Spent some time at Barrett-Jackson, which was exciting. It was the early years of live TV of auctions, and we sort of learned a lot. But it was wonderful that the impact that it had, on sort of the auction and the auction results. Then I came back to California, was asked to sort of create a lifestyle event division for a publication called Rob Report that was headquartered out of Malibu, up in Point Du. So still in the world of cars, still at Pebble Beach, the Goodwood events, Amelia Island, but bringing in, events that factored into the yacht world and the aviation world, timepieces. So very fortunate to have some great experiences. Then I went back to Black Hawk. I kept in relationship with the Black Hawk Museum, place I was very fond of, and they were getting ready for their 25th anniversary. I was asked if I considered going back to the museum, which at the time I hadn't, but I did. And I was there for a number of years, really enjoyed that, and then got a call for some people in Monterey and asked if I would come down and try and help get Laguna Seca sort of, back on track, which we were doing. We were fortunate. We got IndyCar to return to Laguna Seca. We got Trans Am to return to Laguna Seca after 15 years. But the county had other plans. And so that ended up, that sort of came to an end. And fast forward, I'm now here in Pontiac, Michigan, running the M1 concourse facility. So again, been very fortunate to have a sort of a broad experiences, all car focused. I've sort of been a lifelong car person. So I feel very fortunate to be able to work in a world that it's also been my passion.
You sir are living the dream, I'll tell you that much. The man is living the dream, doing something with cars and all that. So where do your personal tastes lie when it comes to vehicles? Do you have either classic or supercar, or what kind of is your niche personally when it comes to cars?
It's a bit broad. I mean, I will be the first to admit, probably given my heritage, that I have a strong fondness for both the Bentley brand and the Aston Martin brand.
Shocking,
all eras. But given the sort of the experience and being very fortunate, Black Hawk Collection had, a significant. The first time out there, we had 150 cars on display in the museum, and probably another sometimes 200-300 cars, and some of the world's greatest cars. So I got to sort of to drive a real cross section, whether it was pre-war classics, 50s and 60s sports or sports race cars, some unusual concept cars. There was a couple of situations where maybe a car that was my favorite didn't quite drive the way I hoped it would, and it sort of dropped down the list. But there was also a couple of times where I got in a car that maybe I hadn't really thought of, and it just drove like a switch watch. And all of a sudden you go, the Packard, I think, was one particular one. I sort of appreciated Packards, but never been a fan of them. And their tagline, ask a man who owns one or ask a man who drives one, is certainly the case. And I remember one year at Pebble Beach, we had a Packard, and we sort of used it for 3 or 4 days at an event. And it was just one of those ones. It was so spectacular to drive. I really became fond of Packards. But I've also embarrassed myself in a pre-war Bentley trying to shift gears. And, if you don't get it right, it tells you. And it tells everybody around you as well.
What Randy normally asks this, but I'm going to step in. What are some of the, let's say, the top 5 cars you'd like to have in your garage?
Oh, the challenge with that question is not the 5 you choose. It's all the ones that don't make the cut that you agonize over. Mm-hmm. Well, I've always had a passion. From a younger age, I've always thought that the epitome of a great classic car was the Bugatti Royale. Strange as a younger age, there was only 6 of them. They're monstrous cars, but it would have to be one of the Bugatti Royales. And there's 2 specific ones. There's either one called the Coupe Napoleon or there's the Coupe de Ville. But they're stunning cars. I was fortunate. The Coupe de Ville was actually owned by a prominent collector in Southern California for many years, and was able to sort of drive that. So Bugatti Royale would be one. Being from England, you got to have a Rolls Royce, and Rolls Royce Silver Ghosts are probably one of the most drivable cars. I mean, the group that own Silver Ghosts, drive all over crazy places. And if you're going to have a Ghost, I think you got to have what I think most people consider the best one in the world, and it's known by its license plate, AX201. So that would be on the list. I was a schoolboy in the 60s, and GT40s are GT40s then, and they're now. And again, of all the GT40s, probably the 2-time Gulf-colored Le Mans winning car would have to be on that list. So that's 3. One of them's going to be on every list, whether it's one car list. It's generally referred to as the 1959 car, but I think it's actually a 57. But it won the 1959 Le Mans 24 Hours with Carroll Shelby and Roy Salvador driving, and that's the Aston Martin DBR1. I think just sort of automotive sculpture, regardless of what it did. And then and again, I was a schoolboy in the 60s, and Aston Martin still had that sort of halo effect from its performance years, but then also had the benefit of the whole Bond aura around it. So that was one of those marks. Already round out the 5. Well, I could cheat and say there's a trio of cars that will probably never be separated, if that counts as one, which are the Alfa Romeo Bat cars. Or you could go the other extreme and go with Alpha 2.9.
So there's a tie for 5th is what you're saying. That's okay. That's okay.
That works. Yeah, that works.
So if 3 small cars, that are considered basically one, I mean, they're styling wise, they're probably the most stunning automotive styling exercise that was ever done. And, I think they were finally put together up to about 1989. I think the collector in Southern California was able to get 3 of them together. They were shown at Pebble Beach in 1989, and they've been together ever since. And hopefully they'll stay together. But again, if you don't let me have that triptych as well.
Tim, do you have collector cars of your own? Do you have something?
I don't. I've been extremely fortunate to be involved with organizations where I've had access to some pretty significant cars. So I've sort of, lived it through that world.
Yeah, well, look at the bright side. That way you don't have to go get yourself a big condo to put your cars in. You know what I mean?
And pay the bills to repair them and maintain them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. I get it.
So M1 looks like a fantastic facility. How would someone get in touch with you, or who would they get in touch with if they were interested in one of the condos?
So our website for the facility is m1concourse.com, and that's the letter M and the numeral 1. It's the sort of the airport spelling of concourse as opposed to the car show spelling of concourse. So it's concourse.com. Both of our events have their own websites. So there's woodwarddreamshow.com or americanspeedfestival.com. But if they go onto the M1 Concourse site, there is a page there that gives an overview of the garages that are available. There's actually a location map. And we also have some of those exploded 3D scans that show some different configurations of some of the existing ones. So it gives people ideas to what extreme somebody should deck out the inside of their garage space.
The good news is it seems that we're getting out of this pandemic thing. People are now starting to go to car events scenarios all over the country. You're putting these shows on here. What's the reaction you're starting to get from the car world as far as people? Can they not wait to get to this thing, or do you find some hesitancy still?
No, for over here, there certainly is a sort of a pent-up demand. Last Tuesday, there was a gathering at a local diner. It's sort of first one of the season. And they had 800 cars show up on a Tuesday night.
Wow.
So, that was to my point earlier. That was one of the things where we thought we better hold off on our cars and coffee. So I think there genuinely is sort of a pent-up demand for this. I also think people are feeling a lot more comfortable with going out to events, especially outdoor events. I can't speak to sort of indoor events, certainly in this part of the world. And the car culture is, exceedingly vibrant. I mean, when I got here, I've known a number of friends that have lived here for a number of years, but I'm not amazed, but pleasantly surprised, having lived in Southern California where, sort of car culture is. But here, the concentration of people are passionate about a cross-section of cars, whether it's, early muscle cars or late model exotic cars or everything and anything in between.
Okay, good. God, I got to get back to the Woodward Dream Cruise and the Woodward Dream Show.
I've seen videos of it. I hate to say I have never been to one, but that's on my to-do list. That's on the bucket list, if you know what.
So I hear. So if I left here and I went down to Ferndale, which I believe is the starting point.
Yeah.
I think you could probably do that in about 40 minutes on a normal day. I've heard it could take you the better part of 4 hours to do that on Dream Cruise.
Hey, we're veterans of Van Nuys Boulevard. Let me tell you.
Let
me tell you.
It's 405 cruise.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to be in a car on Woodward during the cruise and gone to the cruise, I think 3 or 4 times. And it's, Randy, you have never seen anything like it in California. Van Nuys Boulevard is nothing. The TV station set up their remotes in the middle. It's got a center divider wide enough for a full stage.
Oh, yeah.
And then the manufacturers have their individual, Chrysler rented a whole shopping center one year. GM, we had a restaurant. We had all the test vehicle or the prototype vehicles on display. Oldsmobile took up a whole park. Ford takes up a whole park. It's just an amazing show. And what you're doing is going to complement it even more for those that, gosh, want a stagnant, a parked area that is in such a beautiful location.
So, and I think Pontiac was the last city to join. I think there's 11 cities now that are part of what the Woodward Dream Cruise sort of travels through. I think Pontiac was the last city that sort of formally come on board. Certainly we're hoping to do our part to sort of, wave the north end of Woodward Avenue up here. So we're excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. The city of Pontiac, calling what they call Pontiac Power Week with, roadkill nights to begin with, and obviously the cruise weekend, the following weekend, and certainly other opportunities. There's a small Pontiac Transportation Museum that's looking to open in a converted school building. So there's a lot going on here, and it's exciting times.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Go ahead.
You're helping revitalize Pontiac because
we're going to do our bit. There's a lot going on here. There's a couple of Silverdome sort of property. There's United Mortgage have taken over an enormous property nearby. It certainly looks like it's turned around now. It's just got to sort of make some progress. So.
Yeah, a friend of the show, Jeff Gilbert at WWJ out there in Detroit, used to, and I imagine he'll still do this, but he sets up high above the Woodward Cruise, and he'll sit there and run live feeds of all the cars going by and doing play-by-play basically. And it's just wild because you see all these cars going through. In the middle of the day, Bob, it's not like at night in the good old days. No, it's they're driving in the middle of the day, and there's a lot of cars there, and they're very cool classic cars, and it's something that if you've never done it, it's worth checking out at least once.
Oh yeah, definitely. We would park at 15 Mile and walk because we knew we couldn't take driving. We wouldn't see enough. But it would take us 8 hours of walking, and we still didn't see it all. That's how big the Woodward Dream Cruise is. And with your addition, that's going to make it even better. It really is.
And for people coming into the area from outside, we've got great friendship with the people over at the Henry Ford Museum. They've got that great Driven to Win exhibit that's there. There's certainly a lot to do.
All right. Well,
very good.
Tim, I do appreciate you joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you and seeing the progress. And Randy, I think we need to take a trip, and we can put it on our expense reports.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody needs like MCs somewhere down the line. I think make it right. You can make it a business trip or something like that. You never know.
We could get one of those 6,000 square foot garages too. That'd have been enough room for our cars.
So what you should do, Bob, is get one of those GMC motorhomes that were built here on the property and do a road trip. The Charles Corolla road trip.
Homes were pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
I remember those from the 60s. They were great.
All right.
Space-like.
Definitely. They're bringing big money out. I've never seen a motorhome restored until they came out. Now people are looking for those and restoring them. They're just, that's just an amazing RV as it is. All right, Tim, I do appreciate you being with us. We're going to get people involved and get your website published or posted so that people know about it. And I think you're onto something there. That's going to be great.
Guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us.